Alright, so I've been working on a couple of Yamaha Bear Trackers, and they had been sitting around for a long time, and on both of them I yanked the carburetors off of them, and one of them I'm going to clean up. One of them I tried to clean up a little bit, you know, just with a wire brush, and well, I can show you right here. So this one, you know, I tried to clean it up a bit, had it soaking, but there's just so much stuff that's just frozen on it. Even the jet here, the little pin. I mean, you can't even back it out. I mean, everything was pretty bad. This one I had did the same thing. Took it apart and had it soaking and brush cleaned it and all that good stuff, and thought I did a pretty good job. But when I put it back on, it cranked up, but then it sounded like that it clogged up again, and then sure enough it wasn't sending any gas through. So I'm gonna take this thing apart and take all the valves, just take it completely apart again and make sure everything is good and clean. So I'll show you what I did. Alright, so I'm going to start by taking the bowl off and all those pieces and make sure I got everything cleaned. I'm sure it still looks pretty bad. All I did was I had it soaking, and then I got after it with a brush. And this one's actually a steel brush. I have a brass one that I'll switch over to, make sure I don't scrape everything up too bad. But this one I'd like to get going. But they were in pretty bad shape, I have to say. That one I showed you here, that is after clean. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But anyway, so yeah, it's not too bad. I can still see some junk in there. Now remember, this was kind of hard too. I think it was stuck. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to free that. So there's the float bowl. And I don't think that was the problem. I mean, it was working pretty good. And I can test it. Yeah, it's working. So, but I'm still going to take it apart. I'm going to give everything a double cleaning here. Now that happens sometimes. I'm going to just tap that pin out. There's that pin. Yep, everything is looking good. Pin is clean. Yeah, I could probably clean up the float again. And let's take out, oh, sorry, I was kicking a piece of sheet metal there. Hit my feet. It was acting like this piece was clogged, but it's not. You can see through it. But I'll be cleaning it all again, so I might as well take this assembly off. I'm not mistaken, there's a little filter in there too. And it is stuck. You see what I'm looking at? This is just a retaining screw there, and it should come out. I wonder if I put some liquid wrench on there. And let it soak for a little while I take everything else out. Take everything else apart while that soaks. Ooh. You can tell it's a new can. It's just it sprays out readily. Let's see. Let's take our I'm going to seat it down out of curiosity. I think I had it set for, yeah, right there. So there's a half, there's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. I think 3 is what I had it set at before, just as a starting point, you know. And there she blows, and there should be a there's the spring, and I think there's a washer in there. There it is. Now I'll have to look this up. I saw a guy with this one, what I just pulled out, the washer was down at the bottom, then the spring was on top of it, and then the needle went down into it. I saw another guy that did the opposite. He put the spring down in with the washer on top of that, and then the needle. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. There's the little washer. He had it seated that way. The spring, the washer, then the needle through it. And I just pulled this one out, and it had the washer at the bottom, then the spring on top of it, then the needle. So, but I'll have to look that up and see what, let's see, where'd it go? Nope. There's a little washer, tiny. Alright. So I'm going to spray through that. It's flowing through. Let's get this top off. should be spring loaded. There she blows. Everything looks pretty clean. There's the spring, and that's already popping out. So this is where that's inserted in, and there's your main needle there. Underneath there should be, I'll show you, yep, there it is. So this needle goes in, it feels good and clean. Then this little plastic washer is more of like a spring keeper that goes on top, and then your spring goes on top of that, and that keeps your spring engagement, whatever. All that looks good, and the boot is in good shape. Set that to the side. There's another valve in here, and this one I don't think I got last time. So I'm going to remove this. Make sure everything's clean underneath. There it goes. Reach in and grab it. I don't know what's underneath it. Alright, no problem. Let's see if I can see through it. And yes, I can see through it. No problem there. And last but not least, I'm going to take, there's another diaphragm underneath here. Keep holding it with your thumb when you're taking this stuff off, because you can feel this one has a heavy spring on it. You don't want it to fly away. There we go. Yeah, not bad. I had a needle over here somewhere that I used to poke around, if I can find it. Alright. Found the needle, and it's just like a sewing needle or pin. And I just use it to poke around these. Poke around and make sure everything's free and clear. Let's start spraying through some of this stuff. see, where's this going to? Goes through here. Should be coming out of there. There we go. What have I not sprayed? Oh, I haven't finished this off yet. I need to the diaphragm looks good. There's no splits, no cracks. And that came off kind of easy. Before I put that back on, I'm going to spray around. I couldn't tell if there was a washer down there. I don't think there is. Should be coming through here. Go. And this one, it's coming through. Where's that coming out of? There we go. Okay. Everything is clear, except I never got this piece out. It is stuck. I'm hesitant to put too much force on it. I don't want to deform that piece and then not have this pin seat down correctly. Right now it's still doing good. So the rest of this I think I'm going to put back together. How'd that go in that way? Yep. Nope. That way. sure has a heavy spring. Alright. This one went in here. I'm still going to poke around with it. I want to make sure. I know I can, when I hold it up to the light, I can see through it. But yeah, it still feels rough. You know what I mean? Back in. I probably should have worn gloves, but my hands will smell like this for quite a while. But when I'm working on these little tiny parts, the gloves just seem to get in the way. You know? There we go. Alright, that looks good. Let's put the rest of this top back on. So, when you're lining this up, you can see that little, not a notch, but a little, you know, oval little piece. And you see that on the same thing when you're looking at the boot here on your diaphragm. The way you're putting it in, of course, you can either be right on or it's going to be 180 degrees out. So you want to make sure that your little tab here goes, tab A goes into slot B. So line that up. I'm going to put the pin in, drop it down, and I'm going to hold it up because your little plastic, this little plastic piece goes in. Yep, I dropped it. Sometimes I can just drop it down in there and I don't think that got it. Oh. I'm not having good luck with this today. What happened? See, the little pin got wedged in there somehow. Let's see if I can pull it out. There it is. And it's not warped or anything. piece. I'm trying to hold it against the light and make sure. Yeah, dropped right in. And that was your little spring keeper there. So I'm going to hold the spring down in so that this will stay rigid. Line up your little tab. It should slide right in. So now, seat the diaphragm. I'm going to let go of the spring. While I seat this. There we go. And then just stick the little locating pin and seat it down in there. There we go. And screw it in. I'm just putting it very snug to start out with. Then I'll go around and tighten them up. There it is. Alright, then you check it. The spring should be pushing it down pretty easily. Now I've seen some of these too. When you start working on the rest of this stuff, somehow the spring gets knocked loose or something when you're holding it upside down and banging it around. So you might have to take it back off and reseat it. But other than that, I think everything is clean. My first mosquito bite of the year. And all the O-rings and gaskets look pretty good for being, I think this thing, it is now 2019. I think the last time that these were run, I think it was 2011. So they sat around for 8 years. And well, I'm going to put this back together the way I found it, and that's with this washer at the bottom. I'll assemble it this way for now, and if I find out otherwise online, then I'll switch it out. Okay. Okay, there's a half, there's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. I'm going to go back down to 2.5 as a starting point and adjust it as needed once I get this thing installed. Let's see. I'll put this back together. I guess I am not going to take this piece off. I just don't want to damage it. This thing should pop out, but I'm not having any luck with it. I just don't want to damage it, you know. Alright, so I'm going to butt in on the video right here because originally I had put everything all back together without getting that the float valve, I guess you'd call it, assembly out of there. I just left it alone thinking, well, it's working, I'm not going to mess with it. I was like, you know, I wasn't quite comfortable with that. So this is the next day. I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and take it off, and you know, I want no questions. I don't want that to come back to haunt me, because I know under there on that, when you pull that deal off, there is a little screen, there is a little filter on that thing. So I want to make sure that sucker's cleaned out. So I'm going to backtrack, go do that, and then we'll cut back into the original video. Alright, so there's the that valve assembly I'm talking about. And I know it's gasket sealed also. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to grab it and work it back and forth. Maybe it'll start to come out. I'm just paranoid about damaging that thing. I hope this thing doesn't fly off if it slips like that. Holy cow. Wouldn't that suck? Man, I just get a grip. Let me see if I have those tiny needle nose vice grips. Well, I couldn't find my needle nose. I think I must have left it in that in the garage with the ATV, so I use those all the time. I don't know if these are gonna give me enough room, but those little tiny needle nose ones it's one of my favorite tools. Let me see if I can't it's trying. There we go. Holy cow. There she blows. Let's get this sucker cleaned off. The screen doesn't look too bad. That's good. It's hard to see that little gasket. I think it's okay. And let's clean the rest of the junk out of there. Actually looks pretty clean in there. This brush I don't think is going to make it down there. I have some little pipe cleaner brushes I'm going to have to go get. A little box of goodies. So there's my pipe cleaners and little needles and all that good stuff. I keep spare springs, little gaskets, cotter pins, hitch pins, fuel clamps, just a bunch of odds and ends that come in handy. I think I've worn these things out. There's some tiny ones, but you can see they wore out pretty quick. Alright, well I think that's it. Just going to finish cleaning these out and we'll put it all back together. And continue with the original video. It's still moving freely. That rubber tip is in good shape. I'd already done this before, but I can see some spots where I missed. There we go. Alright, that's a little better. Oops. Has that little retainer clip on the end of this thing that you just slide over the tab. Now you can insert it back into. There we go. Oh, I know what I forgot. Let me go back. Take that back in. I did not put this screw back in. The screw that holds this little assembly in, which I never could get it off in the first place. I hope that doesn't come back to haunt me, but I just don't want to damage that piece. Okay, now we can insert it. Put the pin back in, get it lined up. And I'll tap it with my tiny ball peen. I think that got it. And it's still working. And I'll double check. Let me clean off the little intake tube here. It's working. Alright, what is missing here? We got our main jet, and I can see through it, but I'm still going to poke around. Last but not least, looks like the little the overfill pipe there is kind of dirty. I tried to get all that off, but it was it's hard to get behind it. I keep saying one of these days I'm going to get an ultrasonic cleaner. This would have been a perfect perfect candidate. And the battery on my camera went out and I did not know it, so I missed the very last part of it, but at least we were just putting the float bowl back on, so no big deal. But that's how I do it. You just take off all the little components, take everything apart, poke around, spray it, clean it, and put it back together. That's basically it. This one did have a few tough spots in it, and I guess after this, I mean, just gauging on how it looks. If it's in really bad shape, try ultrasonic cleaning. If it just needs to be flushed out and cleaned that way, then just put it back together. So, but that's it.